Welcome to Attenuation, a weekly podcast where two friends come together to drink beer, discuss beer styles and trends, and just generally ruminate on the meaning of life, aka beer. If you enjoy your time with us, we invite you to become a weekly listener and subscribe to the podcast. Without further ado, here is this week's episode.
Hello, and welcome to episode 50 of Attenuation, a beer podcast. My name is Jason, and I'm joined by my best friend since 8th grade, Steven.
Hello.
How's it going, sir?
Awesome.
You ready to drink some beer?
I am ready to drink some beer.
You have 2 beers today. I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, like 1.5.
1.5. Okay, well, today our topic is dear to my heart, although I think I'm going to find out I've been doing it wrong this whole time, and that's cellaring beer. Aging it.
Aging beer. Not Asian beer, aging beer.
Aging. Sorry, I need to enunciate my words. All right. Well, before we get into the... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I actually am super excited about this episode.
Oh, cool.
Because
yeah, me too.
I learned a bunch of stuff.
Going to drop knowledge mostly on ourselves and hopefully some of it to the listener.
Hey, I will interject too, because I was listening to a podcast and I jumped in. It was I was looking for something in particular and I just jumped into this podcast. They had lots of episodes, but they did something cool. And I don't even know if they do this every episode, but they just said hey, if you're a new listener, if this is your first episode, go back and listen to this episode and then this episode or something, just to get familiar with the podcast. But anyway, just so you know, if this is your first time listening to the to Attenuation, a beer podcast, we have lots of episodes. This is number 50, but go back, check out episode 1, where we talk about our beer journey. Do it. I know. We apologize.
Not 1. You gotta
go back. No, you go back to 1. Because you got to hear our beer journeys.
It's so rough.
We have lots of deep dives into different styles and stuff. So if you're getting into craft beer, learning about craft beer, we try to teach stuff, but mostly we just learn stuff by doing so. But anyway, go back and listen to some earlier episodes. But welcome if this is your first episode.
Yeah, welcome to the best beer podcast on the internet.
Okay. As decided by us.
Yeah, we both decided. We listened to all of them. Okay, so our first segment is drinking beer. That's our favorite part, where we both drink a beer. I introduce my beer, give some nose notes, pass it to Steven to do the same, and then we both enjoy, and then we give our tasting notes. So a few episodes ago, Steven had Sierra Nevada Powder Day IPA, which is a double dry hopped IPA. And I was jealous because he said it had melon flavors, and I love a melon flavor in a beer. So I went to the store and I found it, and that's what I'll be enjoying today.
Oh, nice. See if you get any different notes than I did.
Yeah. So this is pouring. It's actually pretty light. It's a lighter. Actually, no, it's about what I was expecting. It looks a little bit lighter maybe, but the head is very active. Maybe the slightest bit amount of lacing, and it's a little opaque. Ooh, a lot of tropical notes on the nose. I'm definitely getting a little green melon, but predominantly pineapple. Lots of pineapple. Ooh, I'm going to like this one. All right, what are you drinking?
Okay, today I am drinking whiskey barrel-aged double pecan porter. It is an ale brewed with pecans and aged in oak whiskey barrels. This is from 512 Brewing Company here in Austin, Texas. It is a robust porter accented by organic Texas-grown roasted pecans and subtly enhanced by aging in recently emptied oak whiskey barrels for 2 months. Do you say pecans or pecans?
Tomato. I say
I say pecans.
Pecan.
Yeah. I think that's only the weird people say pecans.
Hey, you're gonna make half of our audience sad.
They're like, what? Hey, I gotta get an opener though. Hold on.
Okay.
I forgot I was drinking fancy beer today.
Drinking fancy beer. You're going hard too. This is a school night, Steven. And you're drinking
I forgot to mention it's 9.5%.
Yeah.
I gave it a little bit of time to warm up too. Oh, it's pouring out smooth and dark. Nice brown head on it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yep. It's very nice. It's a very pleasant nuttiness to the aroma. A tiny bit of chocolate, but it's not super overwhelming. A hint of that sweet sort of whiskey flavor, whiskey aroma, and then a nice charred wood. So not a lot of coffee flavors, which I thought I might get a little bit of. Very chocolate, nutty, and roasted wood.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Cheers, sir.
Cheers.
Okay, this one is good. It's like an explosion of tropical flavors on the entrance. There's a lot. Pineapple, melon, guava, orange. So all of those kind of just are on the entrance. And then it's really sweet. There's like a bready sweetness after that initial like flourish of the tropical flavors. And then it kind of transitions into like really hoppy pine. So you get the, the more bitter side of the hops. And then like an kind of an earthy finish, I would say. And it's medium body and it's really well carbonated. So it still has like a kind of a retaining head, and even when I poured it, it produced like a massive amount of head. So, but I think that is in its favor. I like it. This is definitely a thumbs up. I think this is pretty good. Sometimes I think I sleep on Sierra Nevada a little bit, but this is a good one. Yeah, definitely thumbs up.
Yeah, they're a little easy to sleep on sometimes, just because I don't know. When I go to the store and I see Sierra Nevada Pale Ale on the shelf, it's not like I'm not gonna buy it.
Yeah,
I appreciate it, but I'm not gonna drink that anymore. But it is nice, like, when they come out with something new, try it and see where they're at. They still make amazing IPAs, for sure.
Yeah, same thing is because usually I go in and I see the staples, and I mean, if there's like a narwhal, I'm going to pick that up, or a Big Bud, but yeah, I mean, and I will drink like Torpedo and stuff like that if I'm just looking for like a easy to drink West Coast IPA. But yeah, generally I'm trying to try new things. So, but then when I saw something, well, you showed me, but something new from them, then I definitely want to try it. Always like to try new beers.
Nice. All right,
So
thumbs up from you. You like
thumbs up. So how was yours?
Mine's really good. It's very light-bodied, surprisingly, for a porter. I mean, porters can be light compared to the stouts, but it's very light-bodied with a very sort of effervescent carbonation. It's kind of strange, but it's really good. You get this like really sweet sort of vanilla, chocolate, and toffee, and then kind of that pecan nuttiness sort of runs through the whole thing, and then sort of real subtle whiskey and roasted coffee kind of wood char flavors right at the very tail end. But the whiskey for sure is super subtle. It was subtle on the nose. I think it's even more subtle in the flavor. So just 2 months in whiskey barrels.
Yeah,
not a ton of time, but yeah, I mean, it's good.
Sounds good.
I would say, like, for me, it's something I wanted to try. It's kind of a thumb sideways for me. Like, okay. I'm not gonna. They have 512 has a pecan porter, just their regular standard pecan porter that is a really good. It's just a really solid beer, and it's kind of an Austin staple. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to try this like fancy version, just to see how it played out. But yeah, no, I mean, it's good. Not something I would buy again, but I never buy beers twice. So.
Yeah, you always one try and then never again.
Yeah, but yeah, good.
Okay, cool.
I'm gonna drink a lot of it tonight.
Yeah, well, you got another beer coming.
Yeah, that's true.
You told me in the pre-roll. So our
one that's not quite so complex.
Yes, this one will be a lot easier. Okay, so next segment we have is postscripts, where we do corrections to previous episodes if we've made errors or we wanted to research and think further. So we have one of those, but we also have some beer news. Also heralding back to one of our previous episodes, Stephen is going to do a podcast exclusive tasting of a special beer that came out recently.
Yeah, this is, and we talked about this briefly in a beer news segment, this is Bud Light Next. Bud Light Next. I want to say that in a really cool way. This is a 0 carb beer. So it is alcoholic. It has 4% alcohol, but there are no carbs. And I looked up on their website trying to figure out, like, what are they doing exactly? You know,
right.
They won't divulge their technological advancement that lets them brew a beer and take out the carbs.
Okay. It's Budweiser's secret.
Like, okay. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. It looks like seltzer water.
Really? It doesn't have like a color? Wow.
Barely. Like a hint of gold. A hint. Actually looks more gold in the camera picture to you than to me. It looks super clear to me.
That's crazy.
It's like Pepsi clear.
That is so weird. You get anything on the nose?
I do, but what I get is bad.
Especially after what you just had.
It smells like a skunk, kind of.
Oof.
A little skunkiness to it. A little like a bad sweetness, like a rotten sweetness. That make any sense?
I guess, yeah.
Oh, this is starting out good.
Okay. Yeah, we're off to a great start.
Okay, time to drink. I mean, it's not bad. It's just not beer.
Okay.
Like, it's not beer. It's like, you know how, like, have you ever heard of, you ever heard the funny descriptions of, like, LaCroix seltzer water? Like, it tastes like you're drinking seltzer water with, like, a orange in the next room, you know?
Yes.
Like, barely a hint of flavor. That's kind of how this is. It's like I'm drinking seltzer water with, like, a drop of beer in it.
Or like there's an open beer you can smell, but you're not drinking that one.
Yeah, it's like a hard seltzer beer.
Interesting. It makes me want to try it, but I don't want to buy. Did you have to buy like a 6-pack?
No, it came in a single.
Oh, nice.
I would never buy a 6-pack of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it has the faintest smell of bad beer, like of just cheap beer, and then like none of that taste. It's just like barely any of that taste. It's actually kind of refreshing though.
So would you drink it if you were
like? It's not bad actually. Like it's not bad. It's just not like it's not beer, but it's not a bad flavor. Like it comes out like really crisp, kind of refreshing. Like I could see drinking that if I'm like super thirsty on a hot day, and like it being a refreshing drink. I don't know why I would choose that. But it's not bad.
Okay.
I was ready to say some really, really harsh things about it.
So it's basically
seltzer water.
Seltzer water that tastes like
a hint of beer.
Sort of.
Yeah.
But I guess it would get the job done. And it's 0 carbs, so.
Yeah, 0 carbs, 4% alcohol. Yeah.
All right. Good job, Bud Light.
I see the market for this. I see it.
You guys did it.
I'm impressed.
Now, that is not something I hear every day from you, sir. Being impressed by a macro beer.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, well, that didn't go as I expected, but that's good. So we also have a follow-up on our news from last week on Modern Times. Did you want to share that, Stephen?
Yeah, so we initially reported on them closing a bunch of their locations, which they have now done, 4 of their 8 locations. And apparently they are also in the market for a buyer. They're looking for someone to pick them up. Which I don't know if we've heard this really. You know, like we know that New Belgium and Bell's just recently, and Bell's probably put the feelers out there at some point to somebody. I don't know if anybody had already asked them, and yeah, I don't know how any of that works. But this is a very like public. I don't know if they meant it to be public, but a fairly public cry for like, hey, anyone want to buy a brewery? We're ready to sell.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad.
It's great. It's great.
Why is it great?
Well, I mean, I think like I actually read a really long article the other day all about the change in perception over breweries that are sold to bigger conglomerates.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There were lots of theories based on like when it first happened, especially with like Ballast Point and Constellation. It was such a big sale, and it was kind of newer. That whole idea of craft breweries being bought up by big conglomerates was a big deal, and so it was just bigger news. You know,
that makes sense. Yeah.
And as it's happened more and more and more, the reaction to it is just going to be more subdued because it's like, oh yeah, it's happened before. It just is. It's not, the shock value is not there anymore. So that was the main theory for why, you know, the reaction is more subdued now. But they were also just like, you know, maybe people are realizing that it's not as big of a deal as they thought it might be, or, you know.
Nice. So they're coming to the same conclusion we came to like 6 months ago.
Yeah. Or there's enough, you know, like if there's enough brand loyalty to that brand of craft beer, and people are like, well, it's okay, I still like the beer, you know, still support them. It is what it is. But yeah, this feels weird.
That they're so actively seeking an investor? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to make a meme about this.
Oh, okay, yeah. I saw your other meme. I liked it. Steven's starting to put memes on our Instagram, which is attenuation.podcast. So follow us there to get the spicy memes.
Yeah, I got the green light to start memeing. So
yes,
now it's
open season.
It's gonna be bad.
It is. I think it is. I think you're right though. Maybe it is a good sign because before, I think if you were going to get sold to a big conglomerate, it was kind of like bad for the brand. But maybe it's gotten to the point where it's like it's just the new reality. This is just what's going to happen. So it's not necessarily going to hurt them to just seek an investor, because people know that as long as the right person buys, and it seems like it's been the case so far, is like nothing really changes as far as the beer. So it's just the organizational structure is different.
Yeah, it was interesting to sort of reading the comments and reading, some different opinions. And, a lot of people kind of expressed their disappointment in modern times lately, and like the quality of beer that ends up on the shelves of the stores. And we've talked about that before. It's like they make all these amazing beers, none of which are available at any time. And so I wasn't sure if that sentiment was like as universal as it seemed to be in the comments. Like people were like, yeah, this is kind of an old worn out brand. They just keep packaging the same mediocre beer and putting it on the shelves and not like really showing what they can do, because I really do think they make some good beers. Those beers aren't available except at like, exclusive beer festivals. So maybe if they can take that brand, and I think we are moving into this like new arena of breweries trying to grow too fast.
Didn't they have 8 locations? Yeah,
they opened 8 locations. Yeah. And it's like, maybe you didn't need to do that. If you can be a really solid local brewery and provide amazing beer to the 20-30 mile radius around you, like a lot of breweries are going to have to be satisfied with just doing that.
Yes, I think there's a lot of risk in, we talked about it before on the episode where we watched the documentary, but there's a lot of risk in just scaling up from like brewing in your garage to brewing at a brewery. Like you have to learn all new equipment. There's 1,000 other factors you have to deal with now. It's the same for like opening another location. It's just that all over again. Like, do you just brew at the first location, then you got to figure out the logistics of getting the beer to the other location, or are you going to brew at both locations, and then like how are you going to make sure the beer is consistent? So I think it's always dangerous, I think, to expand a business. And maybe you're right. It's possible they just expanded too fast, or.
Well, and I think craft beer specifically, it's getting harder to do that. It's getting harder to expand that quickly because there's so much competition.
Exactly. You're moving, every neighborhood is crowded now. So it's not like you could just, in the past, you could just move into a new city and be the hot new brewery and there's not a lot of competition. But now if you move in, it's like you're going to be competing.
I mean, and the locals already have their
they already have their
local places that they love. Yeah. So I just think it's just a different world, and I think you're going to start seeing that where these breweries, right in that sweet spot of having, again, trying to open like 6-7 locations, all of a sudden, like, you can't survive like that. You have to be local, or you have to be like huge and global.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a lot of middle ground. So.
No, that makes sense. All right, cool. So good luck to Modern Times. Hopefully someone buys them and gets some of that super crazy beer they make out onto the shelves.
I got like $50. Will they take that?
No, I don't think it's going to be enough. That's like when, what was the group that wanted to buy Budweiser?
Oh, yeah.
And they needed like...
The Home Brewers Association?
Yeah. They needed like $500 million.
So close. 2.
Yeah, they got to like 2 or whatever. Yeah. It was a valiant effort.
Yeah, I think maybe me and you pool our money together.
Yeah, might be able to pick up really Modern Times. How about $350?
Yeah. Oh, you're bringing $300 to the table with my $50?
No, $3.50.
Oh. Okay, so we got $53.50 between.
Let's ask them if they take installment payments.
Yeah.
Buy now, pay later.
Hey, also news.
Okay.
I shared this with you yesterday. I'm coming out for the Pliny the Younger release.
Oh, that's super exciting.
Pliny the Younger release number 2.
So they're going to do 2 separate ones, or is this the one they pushed back?
Yeah, this is the one they pushed back. But they did. This is the second time they're brewing it this year. So they brewed it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they brewed it once for the first one, and then ended up canceling that one. And so that beer got sent out to like a bunch of, they always send out kegs to different contracts that they have. So some people have already consumed Pliny the Younger. This year, yeah. But as far as the release at the brewery, they've started brewing the beer again the second time this year. And then the release will be March 25th to April 7th. I'll be there on Saturday, April 2nd.
Very good, sir. We'll have to coordinate something.
Yeah, we'll for sure be reporting back on that.
Yes.
Podcast.
That's exciting.
Maybe you can get it in bottles. Some of y'all drink one on the podcast.
There you go. That'd be epic.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
All right, cool. So we can move on to our main topic: beer cellaring, aka aging. So we both researched this.
Yes.
This is something we both do.
Yes, casually.
Casual. Well, yeah. After reading about what people do online, we're definitely casuals.
Very casual. Yeah, like I do most of mine at room temperature. I mean, like in the back of the pantry, basically.
And I do all of mine in the refrigerator. So if we met somewhere in the middle, we'd be perfect.
Yeah. Also, the other thing that this has made me want to do is age some sours.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I never do that. You know, everything I have aging is either a stout or a barley wine right now. I do not have any sours aging, so I need to do that.
Yeah, that can be fun. I've done that before. Again, in the fridge, which we'll get into. Maybe not have been the best idea, but so do we want to get into what we discovered?
Yeah. So I guess maybe we can just kind of go over the basics of how to cellar a beer.
Yeah. So, well, before we get into that, I want to give the first good tip I saw, and that was drink one fresh.
Yes.
So before you even think about cellaring, just drink one at least, like fresh, so you kind of have a baseline to know what you're dealing with. Because I think people do get excited. I know I had a friend at work who got really into Firestone, and he had gone to the brewery, and you know how they have all those special like bottles, like the barley wines and stuff like that. Yeah.
Monkey, what was it? Sticky Monkey. You know,
Sticky Monkey, and he like bought a bunch of those, and he just like immediately just started cellaring them. Didn't drink any of them, and it's like, dude, you gotta drink some of them. Go for it.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, there is that temptation of like, oh, this is so good, I gotta like put it down.
Yeah, so, this is so good. I know it's gonna be like I've heard it's gonna be better in 3 years.
Yeah.
But you have no reference.
And life is short.
Actually, it's kind of funny. There is a hashtag on Instagram. It's hashtag drink your cellar. And it's kind of like, hey, stop aging those beers. Drink it.
I'm going to have to take that advice here in about a month and a half. I'm going to drink my cellar. I'm going to pull all the big guns out for the podcast.
Nice.
Because I do have that problem where I have a lot of stuff in there and then I'm like, I don't want to drink that. Like, I feel like I need a special occasion, but...
Yes. Yep.
I think the special occasion is just opening one of those beers.
Exactly.
It will turn an ordinary day into a special occasion.
Yeah, make the ordinary day something special.
I like that. Drink your cellar.
Drink your cellar. Like, hey, dude, you know those beers you're aging? Drink one.
Yeah.
Because I think, too, there's a tendency of, and we can get into this, too, a little bit, but, like, where the sweet spot is, from, like, what I can tell is about 4 to 5 years for beer. Okay. Past that, you're not doing anything for yourself.
I see.
From what I can tell. I mean, maybe there's different, that may be different depending on what style of beer you're cellaring, but for the most part, that's where you're going to find the best benefit.
No, that makes sense to me. I think you can definitely go too long. I think I've done it, and we'll get into it more later. But you're not. Well, let's go through the basics, and then we'll jump into our grand theories. Okay, so I have my barrel aged stout. What do I do to cellar it?
Is that what you're selling, a barrel aged stout?
Or what should I be cellaring? That's the first question.
Well, okay, so the best beers to cellar are usually higher ABVs, stronger beers, right? So you mentioned the Imperial Stout, barley wines, some American strong ales, some higher ABV lagers like Doppelbock's or Weizenbock's can be aged. Baltic porters can be aged as a higher ABV porter. In rare cases, triple IPA can be aged. The famous one is the 120-minute IPA from Dogfish Head. Actually says on the bottle, age as well.
Wow, that's cool.
So there's kind of a cult following of that, of people who age their 120-minute IPAs from Dogfish Head. And that would be a fun one to drink fresh and then see what happens.
Yes, that's a perfect example of, you could definitely do some experimentation with that.
Yeah. And then, of course, on the sour side, there are like Oud Bruins and Flanders Reds, any wild ales, any Brett ales, Brettanomyces yeast ales, lambics and gooses. So those are the kind of types of beers you're aging. Okay,
so now we know what to age. And why wouldn't we age like an IPA?
Well, I think the general theory is that those hop aromas and flavors break down very quickly.
Right.
And so within about 6 months, you're really just losing a lot of that. A lot of what like makes that beer that beer. in the case of a 120-minute IPA, there's a lot going on. It's heavily hopped, but we know that like hops can be a preservative as well. So in that case, like the beer as a total is not all about the hops. I mean, all beers use hops, but IPA in general is meant to get those like hop aromas and flavors from the oil. That is the main showcase of the beer. And if that's what's breaking down,
you're losing.
Yeah, you're going to lose a major characteristic of the beer.
Yeah, you're losing the star of the show. Okay, so now we know what we want to age, what styles we want to age, what should we do with it. So one of the things I saw, and this was interesting to me, is upright. Store them upright. Because I know like in a wine cellar, everything is laying down.
Yeah, apparently with the wine, like you worry about the cork drying out, and so you want some of that wine like hitting that cork at all times to keep it moist. And you do want some oxidation in wine. That's one of the ways wine becomes better, is with some oxidation, whereas with beer it's the exact opposite. You want to minimize oxidation. So the least amount of surface area hitting in the air is the best. So an upright bottle, you have very little surface area exposed to air. So.
Okay, cool. So we're going to store them upright. And then what temperature are we going to store them at?
That was like the widest range of suggestion that we got on.
Yeah, we got a lot of different answers.
In our research, yeah. I think there's a few schools of thought to this. One of the rules I saw was like if you have the barley wine or Imperial Stout, do that at 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. And then sours and wild beers, you would do at 45 to 50 from about 7 to 10 degrees Celsius. So the mutual point on both of those would be 10 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So you could theoretically set your refrigerator, your cellaring beer fridge at 50 degrees and cellar everything in that beer fridge. But I think you saw some stuff about like what happens to, specifically sours or what the bugs are doing in the beer.
Well, it was interesting because they said, when the beer is in the barrel, it's between like 60 and 70 degrees, and there's just a lot of activity. There's growth of the bacteria or whatever they're using in there. So there's a tremendous amount of things happening. And then if you cellar it really cold, you're kind of like shutting down that whole system. So not a lot is going to happen. So you might be aging it for a couple of years, but it's not going to change very much. So that was kind of the argument against keeping it too cold. But then you got to be careful because you don't want it to get too warm either. Because you might have too much activity inside the beer, and then you might open it and it might be kind of gross. So
yeah, you're kind of managing you're like pulling the activity of the bugs down just to like a very low baseline, so they're just slowly making changes to the beer without going crazy or overpopulating.
Yeah, so, I guess I'll finish our thought on temperature. But the other thing I saw kind of across the different articles I was reading and the opinions online is the most important thing is you don't want temperature changes. So part of the reason, like the way I'm doing it, there's two faults in my system. One, it's in my drink fridge, which is in the garage, but I open that a lot to get drinks out or beers out. So I'm introducing a lot of fluctuation in temperature, and it's probably too cold. So in a perfect system, I would probably take everything out of that fridge, set it at 50 degrees, and then never open it except when I was going to get a beer. But then also you do want to control. So the other thing is, if you can control humidity, you kind of want to keep it. They say, this is another thing that varies, but there's some ideal humidity ranges. So you almost want to get, unfortunately, those are kind of designed that they lay things down, but you can get a pretty good wine cellar that will control temperature and humidity. You might just have to take out all the shelves and like put shelves, because a lot of them have like the wire racks to hold the bottles.
Yeah, to hold a bottle of wine.
Yeah, you might just pull those out and put in different racks or something like that. But that'd probably be perfect. But I think I've been doing this for a long time and I've had success with it. So I'm sure it's not perfect, but maybe try an experiment. I should do like something in my beer fridge, and then something in the garage or something like that, and then taste them side by side.
Yeah, I think one of the keys definitely is just putting it in a place where it's steady and you don't have a lot of fluctuation. I think that's going to be the number one key. Refrigerators can be problematic. I mean, unless you have one that you can dial in the humidity, because refrigerators dry things out.
Exactly.
And so that can also be problematic if you do have a beer that is corked, because you can really dry that cork out in the refrigerator. So it just kind of depends on like how crazy you want to be and how much control you want over it. Or, do you just want to casually age your beers? Most of my beers are in the back of my pantry, like I said, to avoid light. That's another thing. You want to avoid as much any light as possible. Sunlight, fluorescent light. Even in a brown bottle, a beer can be light struck, because you have to remember this beer is sitting on the shelf for 4 or 5 years. So yeah, it may not be getting a whole lot of light through it. That multiplied over 5 years is enough to light struck.
It's adding up. Yeah.
Yeah. And create oxidation. So you want to just keep it out of the light, and ideally in a place that's a little cooler than room temperature, but if not, just in a place where that temperature stays steady.
Yeah. So we covered the basics of upright, control the temperature, control the humidity if you can, and then minimize light. So those are really the basics. But then what I didn't know, and kind of what I learned from my research, I found some pretty cool tips. And this one I guess I sort of knew this, but I never really thought about it. But I think there's a misconception that aging a beer kind of creates new flavors. But in reality, part of what it's doing is it's letting some prominent flavors cool off, and then there might be background flavors that become more prominent because the character of the beer has changed. But generally, I don't think you're not really necessarily getting new flavors. Yeah, you might just be uncovering stuff that was previously in the background. So there is kind of like, it's one of those things that I'm probably guilty of, is like, you kind of want to know what your goal is if you're setting something down to cellar. Mm-hmm. Mostly what happens to me is I just end up picking up a lot of stouts because I like them, but I don't drink them all the time. Like I said, it's kind of an occasion, and
right.
If it's like 14% and it's a bomber, I don't necessarily want to drink it by myself.
You'd like to have somebody else there.
Yeah, so it's not really that I'm kind of doing it chaotically, not without a plan. So I think kind of the tip of this is like, if you want to do it more seriously, you should kind of have a little bit of a plan of like what you're cellaring and why, and then kind of like when you want to open it. So kind of like sets down some goals for yourself, like I want to drink this in 2 years, or like I want to drink this in 3 years, or something like that. So, and then the other thing I would definitely, it wasn't on any of my lists, but I'm a huge advocate of sticky notes. So yeah. You should definitely label everything in your cellar of like when you put it in there, because if you're anything like me, you're not going to remember.
Yeah.
And then some things might be older or younger than you believe.
Yeah, and it's not always completely clear on the bottle too. So
no, and you're not going to want to dig through it. So I would just put a sticky note with the date. But I'm all for putting the date on things. You know what they say you should put the date on? Is when you change your water heater in your garage, you should just take a huge permanent marker and just write the date on it. It's like one of those things you'll never remember.
That actually like makes so much sense to me, because I work in a hospital. And we kind of do that with everything. Like we had to write, everything expires in a hospital at some point, whether it actually does or not. So we're constantly having to write expiration, when we open stuff. So
that's funny.
Kind of makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, you're an expert at this already.
What are you aging right now?
So I have a couple rusty nails you got me.
Okay. So you drank that vintage, right? Like new?
Yes.
Okay.
So do you
have some good tasting notes on that, or?
Probably.
Okay.
I might have wrote it in my little book. I think I do. Actually, I think I have a lot of tasting notes on that one because it's my favorite beer.
Okay.
Because you're thinking I should compare it.
Well, I'm just saying, yeah, I think like ideally that's what you're going to do, right? You're going to drink the fresh one, get some good notes on it, so that in 3 years when you drink it, and you're like, I don't know if this is better or not. Yeah,
so that's my main... So my number one con, or like argument against cellaring, is like, and it's another comment I saw, is like, it's all subjective. Like, it's a very subjective thing. Like, already tasting beers is really subjective, and like why you like things.
Yeah.
But can you really know? Like, the problem is you need to be able to time travel to do this properly, and no one can do that. Because if you're going to taste something, and then you're going to taste something like, and write down notes, and then you're going to taste something like 3 years later, I just don't know how accurately you're going to be able to compare the two.
Yes. I mean, ideally, like, look, if you get one vintage of a beer and then you taste it at 0, 3, and 5 years or something like that. You can't taste those side by side because it's the same vintage, right?
Yeah, it's impossible.
The other thing you could do is you could get a Bourbon County Stout from Goose Island this year, get one in a couple years, get one in 3 years. Yes, they're different beers, like brewed at different times, but like it's essentially the same beer. They have the same goal of brewing that beer the same. And so then you could, do a vertical tasting of, 3 different Fremont Rusty Nail years.
Yeah, that could make a lot of sense. Just do
right?
like the current
That's the way you're going
vintage.
to be able to do it side by side. But yeah, in terms of cellaring a beer, comparing it to the original, I think, you just have to do the best you can with making good notes the first time you try it.
Totally.
But we love
fun.
side beer. Vertical tasting of beer is fun too. So
yeah, it's gonna be fun. But yeah, I mean, we just said it 1,000 times on the podcast, but I'm all about trying things at least in twos, so side by sides, especially if there's of similar styles, because that will just really clarify the differences, and you'll really start to zero in on what you actually like or what you prefer.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I was reading an article. It was kind of a Q&A with Adam Avery from Avery Brewing, and he was talking about, you mentioned it, sort of the mellowing of different flavors and allowing other flavors to come forward. Not necessarily adding flavors, but tasting things you didn't taste before because they were hidden by flavors that have now mellowed out because of the aging. And he was talking about how one of the beers they were doing a tasting on became sweeter, but not because there's now more sugar in the beer. It's not chemically sweeter per se, but it's the perceived sweetness of the beer is more now because so many of the roasted wood and, bitter char flavors had mellowed out. And now you were getting more, that sweet flavor that had been there the whole time had been masked until now. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, those things rose to the surface because they were no longer obscured. That makes sense.
And I think a common thing of aging is for the booziness to sort of mellow out.
Yes, that makes sense. I do think that in my limited experience, things mellow when you age them. Mm-hmm. So, especially like what I found the most success aging actually is barley wines. I find when you age barley wines, they get a lot more palatable.
Easier to drink, huh?
Yeah, because they can be pretty brutal.
So I did pick up a 2021 Bigfoot.
Okay, cool.
So now, of course, I want to go pick up another one. And I want to drink a fresh one.
You got to drink a fresh one.
And then, drink this one. I'll drink one of them in 3 years.
And you got to find, I always say it, Old Foghorn, if you can find one from Anchorstein. That's my gateway suggestion for barley wine.
Nice. And speaking of Bourbon County Stout from Goose Island, I got you one.
Oh, nice.
I got you one, and I'm going to bring it to you when I come out.
I'm super excited for that.
So then you can put that. I guess I should get you two, and
we can drink one.
Drink one fresh
notes.
and put one in the cellar.
And I'll put one in my fridge where it can be destroyed. Maybe I think I'm going to get a wine. This is inspiring, man. I'm going to get a wine cellar and convert it.
Do it. I'm sure they're not that expensive, right?
They're actually not that expensive. And my dad had one. It's like, he bought it, like, I swear, like 20 years ago, and it still works.
Still running.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I just don't think, it's not maintaining like a super cold temperature. Like, I don't think it's not under a lot of stress. Like,
yeah.
I think if you get a decent one, it's just going to last and last and last.
Okay, so anything else in your cellar? You got Rusty Nails?
Oh, I have Rusty Nail. I have that Bottle Logic.
Okay.
Maybe we should drink that.
When are you going to drink that?
With you.
Okay.
And I got a couple other things. See, I don't even know. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They're all in the back.
I've got a Darkest Hour.
Oh, nice.
Aging from Anchorage, which I drank on the podcast.
Yes, I remember that.
So I have some good podcast notes, and then I'll have, I think, it was right around like 3 or 4 years. So I think I'll wait like another year or two, try it again, and see how that comes out. Kind of compare it to my initial notes. I didn't drink it fresh, so don't have that. I have Rusty Nail as well.
Very nice.
And I have, what I should do, I have some Black Ops. Oh, I'm going to bring you a Black Ops for sure.
Wow, I'm getting a lot of gifts.
Yeah, I'll bring you a Black Ops. But I should probably drink one of those fresh and then cellar the other one.
The cellaring episode is dangerous.
Yeah.
It's gonna make you buy so much extra beer.
You know what? My thought though is and what I didn't really read over is cellaring something in a can.
Oh. Well, it wouldn't be susceptible to light.
Right.
And you wouldn't have to worry about a cork drying out.
So just store it upright on my shelf?
I think so. I don't see why not. Okay, we'll
keep it in the fridge. I haven't really thought about
fridge is probably too cold.
Versus bottles. We should have.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to postscript that. Next episode, we'll cover that.
Yeah, so then I have the Bigfoot that I will age, but I'll probably get one that's, I'll get another one and drink it fresh.
Ooh, you know what's good about Sierra Nevada Bigfoot, too? They put the date on there for you.
Yeah.
So you can't mix those up. The other one you should do, my dad has done this for a long time. He's not super into beer, but he likes Belgians and like strong ales and anything that's going to be like that more like barnyard funk. It's funny, he likes like the one style I don't like, but he always gets old stock ale from I forgot the brewery, but and they do the same thing like Bigfoot. Like they only make it once a year and then they label it like this is the 2020 vintage, this is the 2021. So that's kind of fun because they come in 4-packs and then we drink one fresh and then we'll drink them like later down the line. So as they age.
Nice.
So yeah, it could be
do
fun.
That with narwhal too, right?
Yes, I think narwhal
with
do
the
well.
year.
Yeah, any of those.
I do want to do some sours for sure. I need to move into that realm. I mean, one of the best beers I've ever had in my life was that Beatification. We've done this twice actually. Both of the Pliny the Younger releases that we've been to, we drank a 7-year-old Beatification.
Yeah.
It's just mind blowing. It's so good.
That one.
I mean, if you like sour beer.
I was gonna say that one we drank was the sourest thing I ever tasted in my life.
Yes, it is so sour.
It was so good. Yeah. So
I seriously, it's what I look forward to that more than the actually like drinking Pliny the Younger. I mean, I look forward to that, but I'm always like, oh, and I'm also gonna get some whatever they have cellaring.
Yes, that little. So when you go to the brewery, they have, and I don't know if they have this all the time. I think they definitely have it when they do the big tasting because they know the crazy nerds like Steven are going to be there, and that list is for you, dude. They're like. They're waiting for you to walk in because you're always like, they always have this like, it's like written on a little board and it'll be like from the cellar. And it's like,
and for the first year, she had to she pointed it out to us and we're like, oh yeah, sure. And then of course the next time we went, that's like the first thing I looked at.
Yeah, you're like, what's in that cellar?
What's available? And like, I want that.
She's like, you don't want Pliny the Younger? You're like, no. I'll get to that. Bring me your 7-year-old Beatification.
And then now I mean every year I go, that's gonna be the first thing I look at is what can we get out of what are you releasing out of the cellar today? Because it's just, first of all, the idea of something sitting that long.
Yeah.
Like it's just sat there that long. Like just
it's
waiting.
Weird.
And then you finally open it and you're like, oh my gosh. It almost feels like wrong to open it.
Doesn't it?
I think that's kind of like part of the hashtag drink your cellar. It's sort of like, you've like put all this time into aging these beers. It's almost like, when you open it, it's done. You've done all this time into it and now you're drinking it. And so it's hard to it's hard to overcome that like sort of mental barrier to drinking something you're aging for a long time. So
true.
But yeah, it's that 7-year beatification is incredible.
It was quite good. So you should age some sours. And nothing's stopping you from just getting beatification and aging it.
That's true. Maybe I should pick up when I'm there, pick up some newer sours and put them in my cellar.
Start aging them. We'll drink them in 2029.
Some aged consecration or something.
Yeah, there you go. That would probably age really well too. Okay, cool. I had one more tip that I did discover, and I never thought about this, but another little downside of aging is because I would mostly just be storing stouts or barrel-aged stouts and stuff like that. But they said, do be cautious because a lot of them that have adjuncts, sometimes you'll lose the adjuncts over time. So they said like coffee can sometimes you'll kind of lose those flavors. And especially it said if a lot of beers have chilies in them now where they're kind of spicy. And they said you might end up losing those adjunct flavors. So another thing of have a little bit of a plan for what you're going to cellar because there might be some unintended consequences of cellaring. So
yeah, I mean, it's funny. I've seen that even in like the short time I brewed the peanut butter porter, my home brew. The peanut butter has like completely fallen out of the beer.
Really?
I really taste it, yeah.
But it was way more present when you first brewed it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, so that adjunct flavor has sort of moved way to the back.
Yeah, so maybe, because that's I usually drink those right when I get them, but I do like those kind of like Mexican style where they have the cinnamon and the chili pepper and.
Yeah, you haven't drank one of those in a while.
You know why? I don't do Tavour right now. Because I was a mark for Tavour. They'd always put those in my feed. They're like, oh, this guy buys these.
Oh man, so I kind of got back into Tavour, you know.
Yeah, you fell off the wagon.
Yeah, so I got a box a while ago, and then I'm just slowly building up another box, but I forgot that when I was trying to free myself from the tight grasp of Tavour, I turned off notifications. So
no!
Yeah, and so I didn't realize I hadn't turned them back on. So I was like, a couple days went by, and I was like, oh man, I haven't got any Tavour notifications. That's weird, because usually they release on average about 2 beers a day. So I jumped on there, and sure enough, there was double dry hopped juicy bits from Weldworks. Completely
oh my gosh.
Sold out. There was Medianoche, a coconut version of Medianoche from Weldworks that would also be a great beer to age. That was sold out. I was like, man, all these good beers.
Heartbreaking.
And stuff sells out now on there. They do not mess around. I'm so surprised. Stuff used to take a while to sell out, and now it does not.
Is the word out on Tavour? Everyone's
I guess
on there now.
It's out. Yeah.
Yeah. Dang, we were in there in the good old days.
I know, right?
You could decide. You could
do
I want that?
I was in it in the very beginning.
I remember you were in it way before I was into it. Yeah.
I've been doing it for a lot of years.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool service. Definitely gets you access to stuff you would not have access to otherwise.
Yeah, for sure.
You ever seen a Belgian Red on there?
No.
All right, if you do, make sure I'll reactivate that day. Get six.
You know they're not sending their beer to Tavour.
No, they don't send their beer anywhere.
All right, cool.
Right.
We have some new goals now around cellaring.
Yeah, we're going to have to buy a bunch more beer and buy a wine cooler. So, all right, well, this has been episode 50 of Attenuation, a beer podcast. If you want to reach us, you can email us at contact@attenuation.gmail.com. We're also on Instagram at attenuation.podcast. And like Steven said at the beginning, if you're a new listener, go back and listen to our old episodes. The first couple are kind of rough, but we get our groove down.
Yes, yeah. We get over some audio issues and flow issues so quickly. Now we are in the groove.
It's down to a science. So, a rough science. So yeah, like I said, episode 50 of Attenuation, a beer podcast. My name is Jason, and I'm joined by my best friend since 8th grade, Steven.
That's me.
And we're saying cheers, and we'll see you next week for episode 51.
All right, cheers, buddy.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Attenuation, a beer podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Instagram or Facebook for more fun content. Catch you next week. Cheers!